Did you know that in 2025, Australia is set to ban visa applications from 10 Asian countries, shaking up the dreams of thousands of students and workers overnight? Yes, you heard that right. One of the world's most popular destinations for education, travel, and migration is now tightening its doors like never before. Reports suggest that this could be one of the biggest immigration crackdowns in recent years, targeting nations across South and Southeast Asia. But why now? What's really happening behind the scenes? Is this about overstaying visitors, fake documents, or something even deeper, like a shift in Australia's immigration priorities? In this video, we'll uncover the truth behind this shocking visa ban, reveal the 10 affected countries, and explain how these changes could impact your plans to study, work, or settle in Australia. Stay tuned. This might change everything you thought you knew about Australian visas.
Number 10. Myanmar. Australia's 2025 visa restrictions have sent shockwaves across Asia, and one of the most affected countries on this list is Myanmar. For years, thousands of Myanmar nationals have looked to Australia as a safe haven, a place for education, employment, and a better life away from the ongoing political turmoil at home. But now, that dream is under serious threat. Reports suggest that the Australian Department of Home Affairs has placed Myanmar under a temporary visa suspension, citing concerns over irregular migration patterns, asylum misuse, and document verification issues. Since the 2021 crisis in Myanmar, there has been a sharp rise in visa applications, especially for student and protection visas. Unfortunately, many of these applications were found to contain incomplete or unverifiable details, raising red flags for Australian immigration authorities. As a result, officials are now tightening their checks and putting applications for Myanmar under increased scrutiny. This means longer processing times, higher rejection rates, and, in some cases, temporary bans on certain visa categories. For genuine applicants, this situation can be heartbreaking. Imagine spending months preparing your documents, only to see your dreams suddenly put on hold. However, experts suggest that this policy is not a permanent ban, but rather a precautionary measure. Australia's way of ensuring that all visa applicants meet stricter integrity standards. If you're from Myanmar and planning to apply for an Australian visa in 2025, now is the time to double-check your paperwork, ensure every document is verified, and avoid agents promising shortcuts. Transparency and accuracy will be your strongest allies in navigating this new system. Don't lose hope. Immigration policies can change quickly, and staying informed is your best defense. If you want the latest updates on Australia's immigration rules and possible reopening for Myanmar citizens, subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important update.
Number 9. Thailand. Another country reportedly included in Australia's 2025 visa restriction list is Thailand, a nation long known for its vibrant tourism, hardworking professionals, and thousands of international students seeking opportunities abroad. Yet recent immigration data and policy leaks suggest that Australia is growing increasingly concerned about unregulated labor migration and visa misuse connected to Thai applicants. Over the past few years, a growing number of Thai nationals have entered Australia on temporary or student visas, only to later switch to unauthorized work or remain after their visas expired. While not all cases involve deliberate wrongdoing, the rising trend has triggered alarms within the Australian Department of Home Affairs. Authorities claim that some recruitment agencies and migration brokers have been exploiting visa loopholes, arranging travel under education or tourism categories while intending long-term employment. This has led to the tightening of visa approvals, particularly for hospitality and service sector applicants, where such misuse has been most common. Moreover, student visa scrutiny has intensified, with institutions now required to prove that incoming Thai students have genuine intentions to study and sufficient financial stability. Thailand's inclusion in this restriction list also reflects a broader shift in Australia's migration strategy, moving away from quantity-based intake to quality-focused migration control. The government wants to ensure that every entrant contributes positively to the economy without burdening the system or violating visa terms. However, it's important to note that the majority of Thai migrants and students in Australia remain law-abiding and valuable contributors. Many Thai graduates excel in Australian universities and contribute significantly to industries like tourism, healthcare, and culinary arts. Unfortunately, the actions of a small minority have led to sweeping changes that affect everyone. While this new restriction may only be temporary, it highlights Australia's growing determination to restructure its visa system and restore the credibility of its migration programs, even if that means tightening rules for friendly nations like Thailand.
Number 8. Indonesia. Indonesia, one of Australia's closest neighbors and largest Southeast Asian nations, has also found itself on the list of countries facing Australia's 2025 visa restrictions. This move has raised eyebrows across the region, considering the long-standing diplomatic and economic partnership between the two nations. For decades, Australia has welcomed Indonesian students, workers, and tourists in large numbers. However, recent developments suggest that growing concerns over asylum seeker transitions and visa overstays have pushed the government to take tougher measures. Over the last few years, Australia has seen a noticeable rise in Indonesian nationals entering on temporary visas, such as visitor or student categories, and later applying for protection or asylum status once inside the country. While some cases may be legitimate, others appear to exploit loopholes in the immigration system. This pattern has reportedly led Australian authorities to reassess visa issuance criteria, particularly for short-term and education-related applications. In addition, labor migration issues have drawn attention. There have been instances of Indonesian workers on seasonal or working holiday visas overstaying or taking on unauthorized employment, straining Australia's labor compliance systems. These factors combined have prompted the Department of Home Affairs to impose stricter vetting and reduced quotas for Indonesian applicants in 2025. The decision has significant social and economic implications. Thousands of Indonesian students who plan to study in Australian universities may face delays, rejections, or limited acceptance slots. Meanwhile, families with relatives working in Australia are worried about possible visa renewals and sponsorship complications. Despite these challenges, experts emphasize that the restriction is not a permanent ban, but a temporary policy adjustment. Australia's main objective appears to be restoring balance in its migration system while preventing misuse of its asylum and temporary visa programs. For Indonesia, this situation serves as a wake-up call to strengthen cooperation, ensure proper documentation, and maintain the integrity of legitimate migration channels.
Number 7. Vietnam. Vietnam's inclusion in Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has sparked serious concern among students, skilled professionals, and migration consultants alike. For years, Vietnam has been one of the top sources of international students and workers entering Australia, contributing greatly to sectors like education, hospitality, and agriculture. However, recent investigations and reports have revealed a surge in false documentation cases and misrepresented visa applications, prompting Australian authorities to take decisive action. Officials from the Department of Home Affairs have reportedly identified an increase in forged educational certificates, manipulated financial statements, and fabricated work histories in visa applications originating from Vietnam. These issues have particularly affected student visa categories, where many applicants were found to lack genuine study intentions. Some were allegedly using the student visa pathway as a stepping stone to gain unauthorized employment or long-term residence in Australia. Such trends have placed additional pressure on the Australian education system and labor market, leading policymakers to introduce stricter verification procedures for Vietnamese applicants in 2025. Universities and training institutions are now being required to conduct more comprehensive background checks to confirm applicants' authenticity and financial capacity before issuing offers of admission. The situation has also exposed a larger problem: the growing influence of unregistered migration agents and document brokers in Vietnam who promise easy visa approvals in exchange for large fees. These agents often misguide applicants, creating a ripple effect of rejected applications and damaged credibility for the entire nation. Despite these challenges, it's worth noting that the majority of Vietnamese students and workers in Australia have maintained excellent reputations. They are known for their discipline, work ethic, and contribution to the local economy. Unfortunately, the rising number of fraudulent applications has made it harder for genuine candidates to gain entry. Australia's decision to temporarily tighten rules for Vietnam reflects its effort to preserve the integrity of its immigration system while encouraging more transparent and accountable migration practices moving forward.
Number 6. The Philippines. Long regarded as one of Australia's strongest migration partners, has surprisingly made its way onto the 2025 visa restriction list. This move has raised major concerns within the Filipino community, both in Australia and at home, given the country's long history of sending skilled workers, students, and professionals to Australia's growing industries. But according to immigration analysts, the decision stems from a noticeable rise in temporary visa breaches and overstaying incidents involving Filipino nationals over the past few years. Reports suggest that many individuals who initially entered Australia on student or visitor visas later took up unauthorized employment, exceeding their visa conditions. Additionally, the misuse of education pathways, where students enroll in low-quality institutions solely to gain entry into the country, has become a significant concern for the Australian Department of Home Affairs. As a result, Australia is now applying tighter scrutiny to Filipino applicants, especially those seeking student and working holiday visas. Migration experts note that some of these issues may not stem from the applicants themselves, but from unregulated recruitment and migration agencies in the Philippines that exploit visa loopholes. These agencies often promise guaranteed jobs or permanent residency opportunities, misleading applicants into violating Australian visa rules. The government's new visa control measures aim to curb this exploitation and ensure only genuine candidates are approved. For the Philippines, the impact could be far-reaching. Thousands of students planning to study in Australia might face longer processing times, more rigorous interviews, and stricter documentation checks. Filipino workers already in Australia may also experience tighter oversight when renewing or switching visas. Nevertheless, officials emphasize that this restriction is not an outright ban, but rather a temporary adjustment to restore visa integrity and rebuild trust in the system. Australia's ultimate goal is to maintain a fair, transparent, and secure immigration process, one that welcomes qualified Filipino applicants while preventing misuse of its generous visa programs.
Number 5. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's appearance on Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has come as a heavy blow to thousands of citizens who have long viewed Australia as a land of opportunity. Over the years, Australia has become one of the top destinations for Sri Lankan students, skilled professionals, and families seeking a stable future. However, rising concerns over migration fraud, document manipulation, and overstaying patterns have pushed Australian authorities to impose tighter visa regulations on applicants from Sri Lanka. According to reports from the Department of Home Affairs, there has been a noticeable increase in applications containing inconsistent information or fabricated financial documents. Some applicants, particularly in student and visitor visa categories, have been found to present questionable enrollment records or incomplete supporting evidence, raising doubts about their genuine intentions. Additionally, a portion of Sri Lankan migrants have overstayed their visas or shifted into unauthorized work arrangements, straining Australia's immigration control system. This pattern has prompted Australia to introduce enhanced background verification and financial capability checks for Sri Lankan applicants in 2025. Universities and employers are now expected to verify credentials more thoroughly before sponsoring candidates. The aim is not to punish genuine applicants, but to protect the integrity of Australia's immigration framework and prevent exploitation of the system. Unfortunately, these new measures have created uncertainty for many aspiring Sri Lankans. Students who once saw Australia as their top choice for higher education may now face longer waiting periods, higher rejection risks, and stricter eligibility criteria. Skilled workers could also find it more difficult to obtain sponsorships due to the heightened compliance requirements. Still, experts believe this policy adjustment is temporary and part of a broader effort to recalibrate migration flows after years of system abuse. Australia continues to value its long-standing relationship with Sri Lanka, but the government is making it clear that only authentic, transparent, and law-abiding applicants will be welcomed under the new immigration landscape of 2025.
Number 4. Nepal's inclusion in Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has sent waves of anxiety through one of the largest student and migrant communities in the region. For years, Australia has been the #1 destination for Nepali students, with thousands enrolling in universities and vocational institutes every year. However, the government's recent decision to tighten visa rules for Nepal is reportedly linked to education visa misuse, fraudulent documentation, and a growing number of students failing to meet visa conditions once they arrive in Australia. According to leaked policy discussions, Australian immigration authorities have noticed a significant rise in Nepali applicants using student visas as a backdoor to gain long-term residence or unauthorized employment. Some cases involve students enrolling in low-tier colleges, primarily for visa purposes, rather than genuine academic goals. This trend has put pressure on both the education system and the job market, prompting authorities to re-examine their visa approval process. Additionally, concerns have emerged over document authenticity and the use of unlicensed migration consultants in Nepal. These agents often mislead young applicants with promises of guaranteed visas or permanent residency, encouraging them to submit manipulated financial statements or fake enrollment letters. The result has been a wave of visa rejections and increased scrutiny on all Nepali applications. In 2025, the Department of Home Affairs is expected to implement more stringent measures for Nepali nationals. These include deeper background checks, tighter financial requirements, and stricter university verification procedures. While this may cause delays and uncertainty, the Australian government argues that these changes are essential to maintain fairness and credibility in its migration program. Despite the setback, Australia remains a favored destination for Nepali students and workers who follow the proper channels. Experts believe that genuine applicants with transparent documents and clear study or work intentions will continue to be welcomed, though under much stricter monitoring. The situation serves as a reminder that integrity and compliance are now more critical than ever in the path to studying or working in Australia.
Number 3. Bangladesh. Bangladesh's placement on Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has raised deep concern among students, skilled workers, and families who have long viewed Australia as a land of academic and professional opportunity. For years, Bangladesh has been one of the fastest-growing sources of international students and temporary workers heading to Australia. However, authorities have reportedly identified a sharp increase in illegal work activities, visa overstays, and documentation irregularities, prompting a tightening of visa policies for Bangladeshi nationals. Recent internal audits by the Australian Department of Home Affairs have revealed that a significant portion of Bangladeshi visa applicants failed to comply with visa conditions, particularly under the student and temporary worker categories. Some individuals entered on short-term visas but later engaged in unauthorized employment or sought asylum, overwhelming Australia's visa monitoring systems. These issues have led to widespread calls within government circles for a temporary suspension of certain visa types until better verification processes are implemented. Compounding the problem is the role of unregulated education and migration agents operating within Bangladesh. Many of these agencies have been accused of submitting fraudulent applications, using forged bank statements, or fabricating educational documents to secure visa approvals. While not all applicants are at fault, the misuse of Australia's generous student visa pathway has tarnished the reputation of legitimate Bangladeshi students and professionals who follow the rules. The 2025 restrictions are expected to introduce stricter financial documentation checks, enhanced background verification, and more rigorous interviews for Bangladeshi nationals. This could mean longer processing times and higher rejection rates, especially for applicants with incomplete or inconsistent paperwork. Despite these challenges, officials emphasize that the move is not a permanent ban, but a temporary recalibration to ensure visa integrity. Australia continues to value its relationship with Bangladesh, particularly in education and trade. However, the message is clear. Only those who demonstrate genuine intent, transparent financial backing, and full compliance with visa rules will be prioritized under the new immigration framework.
Number 2. Pakistan. Pakistan's inclusion in Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has stirred widespread debate and disappointment among students, families, and skilled workers who have long considered Australia one of their most desirable destinations. Over the years, Pakistan has sent tens of thousands of students to study in Australian universities and thousands more professionals to work across sectors like healthcare, IT, and construction. However, according to reports from immigration experts and leaked policy drafts, Australia's Department of Home Affairs has raised concerns over security risks, fraudulent documentation, and overstaying issues, leading to a temporary tightening of visa approvals for Pakistani nationals. Officials have reportedly detected an increase in inconsistent or unverifiable documentation within visa applications, including questionable academic certificates, bank statements, and employment records. While these cases represent a small percentage of total applicants, the trend has nonetheless prompted authorities to enforce stricter background checks and security screenings for all Pakistani visa submissions in 2025. Student visa applications in particular are under greater scrutiny to ensure that applicants have genuine intentions to study and the financial capacity to support themselves during their stay. In addition to document concerns, Australia's migration authorities have also expressed unease over visa overstays and the misuse of temporary visa categories. Reports suggest that some Pakistani nationals have entered on short-term visitor or student visas and later attempted to transition into asylum or protection pathways without valid grounds. These practices have contributed to Australia's decision to reassess its migration relationship with Pakistan. Nevertheless, experts caution that this restriction should not be interpreted as a complete ban. Rather, it is part of a broader reform effort aimed at restoring integrity and transparency within Australia's immigration system. The government's goal is to ensure that all applicants, regardless of nationality, meet the same high standards of credibility, compliance, and lawful conduct. Genuine Pakistani students and professionals who maintain transparency and meet all requirements are still likely to be welcomed, though under a far more stringent verification process than before.
Number 1. India. India's inclusion at the top of Australia's 2025 visa restriction list has sent shockwaves through both nations, especially given their strong ties in education, trade, and technology. For decades, Australia has been a top destination for Indian students and skilled migrants, with tens of thousands choosing to study, work, and build their lives there. However, recent reports indicate that the Australian Department of Home Affairs has become increasingly concerned about the surge in overstayed visas, fraudulent applications, and document irregularities linked to certain segments of Indian applicants. According to official data and policy analyses, a growing number of Indian nationals have overstayed their student and temporary work visas, often seeking to remain in the country beyond the permitted duration. Some applicants have also been found to use fabricated financial records, falsified admission documents, or unverifiable employment histories to strengthen their visa claims. While these cases represent only a fraction of the overall Indian applicant pool, the rising numbers have prompted stricter reviews across multiple visa categories in 2025. The crackdown primarily targets student visas, post-study work permits, and visitor visa applications, especially those submitted through unregistered or high-risk agents. Australia's education sector has expressed concern, as Indian students make up one of the largest international student populations in the country. However, the government insists that these new measures are designed to protect the credibility of its visa system, not to punish genuine students or professionals. Furthermore, Australian immigration authorities are also concerned about the growing trend of visa misuse, where students enroll in low-level institutions primarily to gain work access rather than pursue legitimate studies. To combat this, universities and colleges are being urged to enhance admission verification and compliance monitoring. Despite the current restrictions, experts believe that India will continue to remain a crucial partner in Australia's migration framework. The reforms are seen as a temporary corrective step aimed at ensuring that future migration remains transparent, ethical, and mutually beneficial for both nations. Australia's 2025 visa restrictions have sparked widespread discussion across Asia, reshaping how millions perceive migration opportunities to one of the world's most sought-after destinations. The inclusion of 10 Asian countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and Myanmar, reflects a significant policy shift aimed at restoring control, transparency, and fairness within Australia's immigration system. While the move has caused uncertainty and disappointment, especially for students and skilled professionals, it's important to understand that this is not a permanent ban, but rather a temporary corrective measure designed to tighten oversight and curb visa misuse. Behind these changes lies Australia's growing concern over issues such as overstaying, fraudulent documentation, and the misuse of education or visitor visas. By strengthening background checks, financial verification, and institutional accountability, the government hopes to preserve the integrity of its visa system while protecting its domestic workforce and education standards. However, amid the tension, there remains a silver lining. Experts believe that genuine applicants who meet the eligibility requirements, present transparent documents, and follow proper legal procedures will continue to have pathways open to them. Australia still values international talent, diversity, and global education partnerships, but it now demands a higher standard of honesty and compliance. Ultimately, the 2025 visa policy marks a turning point in how Australia manages its migration system, a shift from volume to value, from open doors to responsible entry. For those affected, the key takeaway is clear: stay informed, stay compliant, and stay prepared. As immigration systems evolve, those who plan wisely and act transparently will continue to find opportunities even in times of change. The dream of studying, working, or living in Australia isn't over. It's simply entering a new era of accountability and reform.